Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another Cricut tutorial. I'm really excited about this Gnome Christmas card I made with my Cricut. You can make this with the Cricut Explorer or your Cricut Maker. I found an SVG file and I got us a coupon code so you can make one of these cute little cards yourself. So stay tuned for the rest of the video and find out how you can get your SVG. So let's get started. Before we get into Design Space, we need to get our SVG file for the gnome. I've got the SVG gnome file from Crafty Canada Studio right here on Etsy. A lovely shop owner named Krista Barker created this file, and it is the gnome right here. It's called Nordic Gnome, and she has a couple different gnomes, and I debated on using this one as well. You could use either one. She has gracefully given us a coupon code. It's GNOME, G-N-O-M-E 25, and that will get you 25% off any gnome file in her shop. So thank you, Krista, for the 25% off coupon for my followers. And once you've downloaded the GNOME file, I suggest you put it on your desktop so it's going to be easy to find, but however your file system is, that's where you should put it. So once you've got the file downloaded, let's go over to Design Space. We're going to click on New Project. And the first thing we're going to do is upload image. So we're going to go to Upload, Upload Image, Browse. You're going to navigate to where your Nordic Gnome file is, and there are two different files when you unzip it. First, when you get it, it's going to come in a zip file, and then you're going to unzip it, and there'll be two different files in there. One of them has PNG files, and you'll see that right here. It ends in PNG. So you want the file that's marked Nordic Gnome, and it ends in an SVG file. We're going to grab that and click Open. It's going to open up right here, and I would suggest you put Crafty Canada Studio so that you remember where it came from. And you can name it whatever else you want. I'm going to put Gnome Christmas, maybe Santa, and click Save. Now, before we go any further, if you have your own papers and you want to use those, you're welcome to. If you want to use the patterns that I have provided for you, we can go ahead and upload those now while we're in this screen. So we're going to switch over here to the right side and click Upload Pattern. Browse. And I've also provided you a buffalo plaid download. You can grab that, click Upload. And you might want to put a few tags on it right here. Plaids. I'm going to put black, red. I'm going to put animals and wildlife. I like to use it for that. Miscellaneous. I think that's good enough. Christmas. And click Save. And it doesn't look like anything happened, but your pattern will show up here in a second. We're going to go grab this second pattern. So we're going to click on Upload Pattern again. Browse. And I've also provided a file called Black Snowflake. And you can go ahead and grab that. And again, we can put black, white. I'm going to put Christmas, winter, and I think that's it. And we'll click Save. Okay, so we're going to grab the first uploaded image here. That's our Santa Gnome SVG. And we're going to click Insert Image. And he's going to come in just like this. We're just going to set him aside for a moment. And the first thing we're going to do is click Shapes and grab a square. Now I hand cut my card base. You can, if you want to go ahead and cut out your card base, go ahead. I just prefer to hand cut my card base, score it myself, and then apply my layers on top. So we're going to start with that top layer. We're going to unclick Lock Proportions. And you can do that by clicking right here or right here in the lower left. Once you unlock those proportions, we're going to make the first layer 4.0 wide by 5.25 high. All right, this is our first layer that's going to go on top of our card base. we want to fill this with the buffalo plaid pattern. So we're going to click on the layer over here in the right in the layers panel. We're going to click on print. We're going to change this to a print and cut, and we're going to click on patterns. And that buffalo plaid should be right here in the top of your list if you just uploaded it. If not, you can use the filters, click on uploaded, and then you'll be able to find it without scrolling through a whole bunch of them. So go ahead and click on that buffalo plaid, and you're going to see it fill in your card base. Now if that plaid comes in a little bit smaller than you like, you can adjust that by clicking on edit right down here in the patterns menu, and you can scale it up, and you can see the plaid becomes a little bit bigger. I actually want it a little bit smaller. I used some buffalo plaid paper that I already had, and once I cut the hat you really couldn't see the plaid all that much. So I'm going to put the scale at 105, and I think that's going to work great for me. Okay, so once you have this base layer, we're going to add the next layer. We're going to go back to shapes, add another square. Again, we're going to unlock keep proportions, and we're going to change that width to 3.75 and the height to 5.00. And that should fit nicely on top of this with just a little bit of overlap. If you want to make it a little bit smaller so that you can see more of that buffalo plaid, feel free. We could go down a little bit. That's now 4.75 by 3.5. All right, let's fill this with our snowflake black paper. So we're going to go back to, so let's fill this with our black snowflake paper. So we're going to click on it in the layers panel, click on print, click on patterns, choose the black snowflake, and you can see it filled this layer in nicely. Again, if you want to scale that up or down, feel free to. I can see it kind of tiled right here, so I'm going to click back on it, go to patterns, and go down to edit, and I'm going to put this up at, let's try 100%, see what that looks like. I like that. Okay, so now we don't have that tiling. So this is going to fit nicely right here. Okay, so now we need to make our next layer, which is our glitter banner piece. And we're just going to make this out of basic shapes. So I'm going to click Shapes, Square. I'm going to unlock Keep Proportions. And I'm going to change the square to 2.8 wide by 4.5 high. Perfect. Now we're going to grab shapes, and we're going to grab a triangle, and we are going to make this really wonky. We're going to unlock keep proportions, and we're going to make this 13.5 wide by 4 tall. And now what we're going to do, kind of get in an area where you can work with these two pieces, and we're going to pull this rectangle down until those two are meeting like this. I'm going to go like this, select both, hit align, align, center horizontally, so we know that's absolutely in the center, and I want to make sure that I get that edge of the rectangle. So I'm going to click on the rectangle again and pull that down just a little bit. I want to make sure those are overlapping, and they are. Now we're going to select both again, and we're going to right click and slice. And now we've made our banner piece. Now there are banner pieces in Design Space, Cricut Access. I wanted it to be a little bit longer here and the point to be a little less drastic than the ones I saw in Design Space. So you can make this whatever color you want. I'm going to cut this out of gold glitter cardstock, so I'm just going to make it yellow for my reference. And that's going to fit on our card just about like so. All right, so now we're going to grab our gnome, and the reason we did this last is so that we could size this according, so it'll fit on top of our banner. I'm going to right click and move him to the front. And now we can resize this. We want to leave everything grouped together. We want to leave the locks in lock position. And I'm going to make my gnome a little bit bigger here. So for me, this entire set of images ended up at 7.0 wide by 7.385 high. But you can do however big or small you like. I just kind of eyeball it. All right, now everything is sized. All the pieces are sized accordingly. We're going to right click and ungroup. And now here's where you need to decide what all you want to cut out. Personally, I did not cut out this layer. I did not cut out this layer. I did cut out this layer. I did cut out all of these layers. And I did cut out the colored berries. I did not cut out these shadow layers of the berries. So this is going to give you 2 layers of berries here, and you may or may not use those. That's up to you. Now this piece is comprised of a whole bunch of pieces. You can see over here when I selected, all of these layers are selected. So let's right click and ungroup so we can see what we have here. So we have a shadow layer, and what I did was pop this up on top of that one just to give it a little more dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. We have this piece, which is the shirt of the gnome. Okay, so you can use a pattern paper, cardstock, whatever you want to cut this piece out. If you want to fill it with a pattern, go ahead. Again, you would just click on it over here in the layers panel, change it to print, click on patterns, and choose a pattern. I know there's a red. There's a snowflake. That one is for purchase if you're not an Access member, but there is a red right here. This one's called Red Cane, I think. We can use that one, and that will fill his shirt. So that will also be a print and cut image. Now the beard, well, let's go to the hat. Here's the hat. I filled mine with the buffalo plaid. If you want to do that, go ahead, click, print, patterns, buffalo plaid. I just like that it ties it in with the background. And again, you can change the scale of that pattern if you want to. I'm going to leave it just like that. This piece I duplicated and cut twice just so that I could give a little bit more dimensions. We're going to right click, duplicate. So that gives us 2 of those pieces. The nose I did not cut out because I made my own nose, but if you want to use that one, go right ahead. I'm going to delete it. I don't need it. The beard I actually cut out in paper and use that for a pattern to cut my fur. Now if you have the Cricut Maker, which I do, it will cut the fur, but I had such a narrow strip and it just fit on there, so I don't want to have to line it up really well, so I'm just going to cut it with scissors. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out in paper. This is the pom-pom for his hat. You can go ahead and cut that out in paper if you want. I used a pom-pom ball, so I don't need that. And then this shoe is only half there because if you use the pom-pom ball, it fits right around it. So I'm going to delete that one and I'm going to duplicate this one so that I have 2 full shoes. So that's everything we need for this project. Again, if you want to rescale this buffalo plaid, you can do so by clicking on it. Once you have your patterns menu up, click edit, and you can change the scale if you want to make it a little bit bigger. And I think I'll leave mine at that. Mine's at 184, but you can leave it small or as big as you want. So let's go ahead and cut out all of these pieces. Again, I cut the beard out in cardstock. This is cut out in glitter cardstock, and the rest of this is print and cut. These I cut out in black cardstock and a coordinating cardstock for these. You can use glitter, you could use whatever you want. I actually didn't cut the red berries because I used gems. So actually I'm going to ungroup this and I'm going to get rid of the red berries. I don't need those layers. And I really don't need Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut those. So let's right click, ungroup. And again, I'm just going to get rid of the red berries. If you want to cut the berries, feel free, go right ahead. So let's click make it. And you can see all of our print and cut images are going to fit on one piece of cardstock. You guys always ask me, I like to use the Cricut white cardstock, or I like to use the Staples brand brochure paper. I will have those items linked below the video. This is our white cardstock, brown cardstock, glitter cardstock. This is you can do a green cardstock, a green pattern paper, whatever you like. These are our berry pieces, and these are our base shadow layers. So go ahead and cut those out and meet me back here, and I'll show you how to put this together. Okay, so here's everything we need to assemble our card. This is the one that I originally made. So I'm going to set that aside. We have some foam tape, some dry adhesive, a piece of black cardstock cut in half. You're only going to need 1/2 of these. I cut it in half on the short side at 4 1/4. So we only need one of those. We have all our pieces that we cut out on the Cricut. I like to keep them in a little bowl that keeps all of my little pieces intact. I have some wet glue. This is glitter glue. I get this from May Made It. I can link that below the video. I have some gemstones I'm going to use for my berries. If you cut yours out in cardstock, you can use those. This is the premium craft fur for doll clothes and accessories. I got this at Joanns, and unfortunately I ripped the top of it off, but it just comes in a strip like this. And this is why I didn't cut this on the Cricut, because it's just going to fit on there, and I didn't want to have to line it up, so I'm just going to cut that with scissors. We need some scissors. I have a large and a small pom-pom, and just a small piece of hosiery. Now, if you don't have this, don't worry about it. You can just use the white pom-pom without it, but I thought it just added a little bit different color and texture to its nose. So the first thing we're going to do is take our cardstock that we cut in half at 4 1/4 on the short side and fold that in half. If you have a bone folder, this is the perfect time to use it to get a nice crease. And there you have the beginning of our card. Now, I'm going to take the red buffalo plaid, and I'm going to use some dry adhesive on the back of that and put that down on our card. Super simple. Going to do the same thing to the black snowflake. Try to keep track of your pieces. This is the Basil Marathon Runner. I got this from, actually I bought a bunch of them at Tuesday Mornings, but you can get them from American Crafts. I think they still have them. Okay, so we have the base of the card down. We're going to add our glitter piece, and I'm going to line that up right with the black snowflake. And you can pop this up if you want. I just didn't, because the gnome itself has so much, adds so much thickness to the layers that I didn't want to make it so thick that it became a problem. So there is the base of our card. We're going to set that aside. We're going to start assembling the gnome. We're going to start with our 2 black layers. You have one that has the holly and one that doesn't. I'm going to layer the one with the holly on top of the one that doesn't, and I'm going to do that with some foam tape. I just like the added dimension. This is, you can skip this whole layer if you want. I just like having a little bit of oomph to it. I'll go ahead and rip your covers off. There we go. I'm just going to line that up. And already we've added a little bit of dimension to Mr. Santa. Next thing I'm going to do is assemble his hat, and again I'm going to pop this up on some foam adhesive. And I'm not going to get crazy with it, just a couple pieces on the side. Go ahead and add that. Just want to make sure it gets lined up. And again, we've added a little bit more dimension. Now I'm going to add my holly pieces just because it's going to get harder to add those as we move along and add more layers. So to add those, since it's so small, I'm just going to use a little liquid glue and place those. And again, we cut out 2 sets of these, and I kind of did that because I like to just add some extra dimension. So I'm just going to pop the extra 2 in that negative space. Just to add a little extra oomph. So I've got 4 leaves there instead of just the 2. Now on this one, I actually use the Martha Stewart branch punch. So if you have that, I did put the holly underneath there, but I also added the Martha Stewart branch punch, which I thought added a little extra dimension, and I liked the way that looked. Okay, so now we're going to add this is the top of the hat. So I'm going to add that with some foam adhesive. And I just simply put 1 piece across the top. Again, nothing crazy. And you're going to add that right about so. I'm going to do the same thing to the second piece. And again, you don't have to do these extra layers. I just think it adds a little more character to the card, a little more dimension. Okay, so before we add the beard, we're going to go ahead and add the shirt. And you're going to line that up down here. And it's kind of easy to line it up if you start right here. You can see the little curves for that puff ball, or for the pom-pom, for the end of the hat. So you kind of just line it up with that. And there should be just a little space left. I started to add the beard on first, but you don't want to do that. Okay, now we're ready for the beard. So what I did was just cut a section of this fur off, and this is kind of messy. And I used my white cardstock, and I lined it up on the back, and I just simply cut the same shape. And you can cut that little notch out for the nose if you want. I just simply cut a small V shape right there so that I could plug the nose in. All right, now to add this, and you're going to probably lose some of your fur, that's fine. Okay, now we're going to use some hot glue and add our beard. And that's going to fit right there, and we're going to match it up with the top of the shirt. Perfect. You're going to lose fuzzies on the side of your beard just from cutting it. And then I just took my scissors and straightened it up. Now we have his beard. Now we're going to add his little shoes. And again, you can pop these up if you want. It's really small, so I'm just going to add them like so. Going to use some hot glue to add the pom-pom right here, the bottom of the hat. And now we're going to make our nose, and all I did was take a piece of hose, wrap it around the pom-pom, and kind of twist it. And then I added a little bit of hot glue just to keep it from untwisting for a second. Clip that off and stick that down. And I'm going to readjust the top of the hat a little bit. There we go. So here's our gnome. I'm going to add my little gemstones for the holly. That looks great. Still losing some fur here. All right, now I'm going to add him to the glitter cardstock, and to do that I am going to use hot glue just because it's hard to get things to stick on top of glitter and know they're gonna last, so just found that easiest. And there you have it. You finished your card. Now what I did just to add some extra touches on the inside, I just put another layer of that buffalo plaid. I put I'll be home gnome for Christmas, and I added some more of that holly and matching berries. And then on the back I just put a piece of cardstock, which isn't, those are just extra touches. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.